All right, so let's dive into Polkadot, or DOT, as most people who follow crypto know it. And it's a project that's it's definitely had some struggles, down about 92% from its all-time high back in 2021. But
ouch.
Yeah, even with that, it's still holding strong with a market cap over $5 billion.
Yeah. It's like that athlete who had this incredible rookie season and then maybe got sidelined with a really tough injury. And everyone's kind of watching to see if they can recapture that early magic.
That's a great analogy. And we've got a stack of research here. Predictions, articles, even some articles that dig into a little bit of the drama around Polkadot. So we're going to unpack all that for you today.
Yeah.
But first, for anyone who maybe needs a little refresher, what exactly is Polkadot trying to achieve?
So Polkadot, you can think of it as sort of like a grand unifying theory for blockchains. You know how right now each blockchain is kind of like its own little island. So you've got Bitcoin over here, Ethereum doing its thing over there. Polkadot wants to build the bridges between all of them, let them share information and value seamlessly.
Okay, so no more of these walled gardens in the blockchain world.
Exactly. The vision is that you could use your favorite DeFi app on Ethereum to interact with a game that's built on a completely different blockchain, all without any friction. And it really could be a game changer for how we use and think about blockchain technology.
Okay, that's a seriously ambitious goal. And DOT, that's their token, right? What role does that play in all of this?
Right, so DOT is the native token of the Polkadot network. It's used for a couple of key things. First, governance. If you hold DOT, you get to vote on proposed changes to the platform. And then the second is staking, so you can lock up your DOT to help secure the network and earn rewards in the process.
So there's this potential to actually, be a part of shaping the future of Polkadot while also earning some passive income. Very interesting. But let's be honest, looking at the price chart, ouch. It's been a bit of a rough ride for DOT holders lately.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. It's been on a pretty consistent downtrend. As of October 23rd, 2024, DOT is sitting at around $4.28. That's a far cry from its all-time high of 54.98 back in November 2021. And the chart itself, it shows a classic pattern of lower highs and lower lows.
So for someone who's looking at this chart for the first time, what are some of the red flags or warning signs that they should be aware of?
Well, the biggest one is that downtrend.
Right.
It suggests that sellers are consistently outweighing buyers. And until that dynamic shifts, it's going to be tough for DOT to really make a significant upward move.
Okay, so the technicals aren't looking too hot. But what about the fundamentals? What are some of the reasons behind this slump?
Well, there are a few theories floating around out there. Some analysts are pointing to Polkadot's marketing, or really lack thereof, as a potential culprit. They argue that the project hasn't done enough to really differentiate itself in a very crowded crypto market. It's like trying to stand out at a massive tech conference. You need to have a compelling message and a really strong presence to cut through all that noise.
Yeah, it's not enough to just have amazing technology. You got to be able to sell it, especially when you've got so many other projects that are vying for that attention.
Exactly. And then you've got another camp, the technical analysts. They tend to focus solely on price action and those chart patterns we were just talking about. And their take is that, this persistent downtrend is really a sign of waning investor confidence.
So it's kind of a combination punch, maybe some marketing missteps, a little bit of fear, uncertainty in the market, and bam, DOT takes a hit.
Yeah, it's never just one single factor, right? It's always a complex interplay of market forces and sentiment.
Yeah.
But, the big question on everyone's mind is, where does DOT go from here?
And that, I bet, is where those expert predictions come in. Do they offer any clues about what the future holds for Polkadot?
Well, let's take a look. First up, we've got Digital Coin. Their model suggests that DOT will stay within a range of 3.6 to 8.92 for the remainder of 2024.
Okay, so if you're looking for a quick, massive gain, that might be a little disappointing, but that upper range would still represent a pretty decent return from its current price. Over 119%. Not too shabby.
Yeah, not at all. But remember, this is just one prediction. CoinCodex, on the other hand, offers a wider range for 2025, between 3.75 and 10.20.
Okay, so 2025 could be a little bit of a mixed bag. Maybe some upswing, maybe some sideways movement. But I'm really curious, what about the long-term outlook? Let's say 2030.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. CoinCodex predicts a huge range for 2030, anywhere from 7.04 to 33.85. Talk about volatility.
Wow, that is a massive spread. So basically, anyone who claims to know exactly what's going to happen that far out is probably pulling your leg.
Exactly. Those long-term predictions should be taken with a very large grain of salt. It's just too difficult to predict how technology regulation and the overall crypto landscape will evolve over that time frame.
So there's another prediction for 2030 we should take a look at.
There is, and this one comes from Wallet Investor. They're actually quite bullish on DOT, forecasting a potential price of 5.29, or even as high as 17.09 by the end of 2030.
Okay, so we've got some predicting a slow and steady climb, others saying it could absolutely explode, and some saying it might just kind of putter along. It's really all over the map. What's someone who's, relatively new to all this, what are they supposed to make of these predictions?
That's the key point, right? You have to understand that these are just predictions, not guarantees. The crypto market is notoriously unpredictable. You could even say it's part of its allure. But it also means that you need to be incredibly careful.
Yeah.
And do your due diligence before investing.
So don't just blindly follow the predictions. Really dig deeper, understand the technology, the team, the vision, and maybe talk to a financial advisor before throwing your life savings into a highly volatile asset class.
Couldn't agree more. There's a reason they call it risk capital.
Exactly.
But, all these predictions do highlight one important fact. Polkadot's future hinges on a whole bunch of different factors.
Like what? Give us the rundown.
Well, first and foremost, how well Polkadot continues to upgrade its technology. Remember, they're trying to solve a really complex problem, connecting all these different blockchains. So their development progress is going to be key. Then there's the question of partnerships. Can they snag deals with major companies or institutions? That would be a huge vote of confidence. And then, of course, there's the whole regulatory landscape, which is constantly in flux. Governments around the world are still figuring out how to deal with crypto.
Yeah, so it's like this high-stakes game with all these different moving pieces. The technology has to work. They need to get buy-in from these big players, and the government can't decide whether to hug it or regulate it out of existence. No pressure, right?
Right. It's a lot to juggle. And you brought up something earlier that I think is worth diving into a little bit deeper. Polkadot's marketing and that whole controversy surrounding their spending.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We've got some articles here about how Polkadot spent a good chunk of change, something like $87 million.
Yeah.
And it definitely ruffled some feathers in the community. And then there were those allegations. Oof. Well, let's just say some less than inclusive comments from a prominent member of the Polkadot team.
Right. And I think that's a really important point to address.
Okay.
Because it highlights the fact that even in this decentralized world of crypto, where we talk about code being law, the human element is still incredibly important with the actions and words of individuals associated with the project. Can absolutely impact its reputation and potentially its price.
So even if the technology is sound, even if the vision is compelling, if the team behind it is making questionable decisions or fostering a toxic environment, that's a huge red flag for potential investors.
Absolutely. It speaks to the need for transparency and accountability. Within crypto projects, people are putting their hard-earned money into these ventures. They deserve to know how their funds are being used and whether the project aligns with their values.
So this deep dive isn't just about charts and price predictions. It's really about looking under the hood, understanding the team, the community, the overall culture of a project. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. And those human factors can make or break even the most promising technology.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect segue into something that you mentioned earlier, Polkadot's grand vision of a multi-chain future. A fascinating concept.
Yeah.
But is it actually achievable?
Yeah. Let's unpack that a bit. We've talked about some of the challenges, but let's really dive into what this multi-chain future might actually look like and why it matters.
Okay, so imagine a world where you can seamlessly move assets and data between different blockchains. Like, let's say you're playing a game on one blockchain and you earn some unique in-game items with Polkadot's vision. You could potentially take those items and use them in a completely different game on a completely different blockchain.
Whoa, okay, so it's not just about moving money around, it's about true interoperability between these different blockchain universes.
Exactly, and that opens up a ton of possibilities for developers and users. Imagine decentralized applications or dApps that can leverage the strengths of multiple blockchains simultaneously. Yeah. You could have the security of one blockchain, the speed of another, and the privacy of yet another, all working together in harmony.
Okay, that's a powerful idea, but is Polkadot the only one trying to build this multi-chain future?
Not at all. There are several other projects out there with similar goals, like Cosmos and Avalanche. They each have their own approaches and strengths, so it's a bit of a blockchain race to see who can create the most robust and user-friendly ecosystem.
So it's a real battle of the blockchains. What are some key things to watch for that might signal whether Polkadot is pulling ahead in this race?
Well, keep an eye on their development progress. Are they hitting their milestones? Are they attracting talented developers to build on their platform? Then there's the question of adoption. Are we seeing real-world use cases for Polkadot's technology? Are major companies or institutions integrating it into their systems?
So it's about more than just hype. It's about proving that the technology can deliver on its promises and that it's actually being used in the real world.
Exactly. And let's not forget the regulatory landscape. That's a wild card that could have a huge impact on Polkadot's success. If governments start cracking down on crypto or imposing strict regulations, it could stifle innovation and hinder adoption. On the flip side, clear and supportive regulations could provide the certainty and stability that the industry needs to thrive.
Yeah, so it's like navigating a minefield. You never know when or where that next regulatory explosion might occur. Okay, so let's bring this back to our listener, the person who's intrigued by Polkadot, maybe a little hesitant to jump in given everything we've discussed. What's the one key takeaway you'd want them to walk away with?
I'd say this Polkadot is a high-risk, high-reward investment if their vision of a multi-chain future succeeds. DOT could skyrocket in value, but there's also a real chance it could fizzle out just like many other crypto projects before its.
So it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure, but for those who are willing to take a calculated risk and who believe in the potential of blockchain technology, Polkadot definitely presents a fascinating opportunity.
And that's what makes the crypto world so exciting, isn't it? It's full of these bold ideas and ambitious projects that could completely change the way we live and interact online.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's circle back to that article from TR Crypto News. They mentioned Polkadot's marketing budget, or lack thereof, as a potential reason for its price struggles. What are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting point. In the early days of crypto, a strong community and grassroots hype were enough to propel a project forward. But as the market matures, professional marketing and branding are becoming increasingly important. You need to cut through the noise and get your message out there, especially in such a crowded and competitive landscape.
Right. It's like trying to be heard in a room full of people all shouting about their amazing new crypto project. You need a way to differentiate yourself and capture people's attention.
Exactly. And I think Polkadot has a compelling story to tell. They're building a truly innovative platform with the potential to revolutionize the blockchain space. But they need to make sure they're communicating that story effectively to the right audience.
So maybe they need to focus on showcasing those real-world use cases we were talking about earlier, demonstrate the tangible value that Polkadot brings to the table, prove that this technology can actually solve problems and create a better future.
Exactly. It's about showing, not just telling, and maybe a little bit of rebranding wouldn't hurt either. A fresh look, a new slogan, something to capture people's imaginations.
Now you're thinking like a marketer. But jokes aside, the point is that Polkadot needs to find a way to stand out from the crowd. They've got the technology now, they need to make sure the world knows about it.
And that's not always easy in a space that's evolving as rapidly as crypto. What's hot today might be old news tomorrow.
That's true. It's a constant race to innovate and stay ahead of the curve. But speaking of innovation, let's shift gears for a second and talk about another aspect of Polkadot that we haven't really touched on yet: parachains.
Ah, yes, parachains. These are essentially independent blockchains that connect to the main Polkadot network. They're like mini blockchains with their own specific use cases and functionalities.
Okay, so it's like a network of networks, a blockchain ecosystem within a blockchain ecosystem. My head is spinning.
I know it can be a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But the idea is that parachains allow for greater scalability and flexibility. Instead of having one massive blockchain trying to do everything, you have these smaller, more specialized blockchains working together in a coordinated way.
So each parachain can focus on what it does best, whether it's decentralized finance, gaming privacy, or something else entirely.
Exactly, and that allows for a lot more innovation and experimentation. It's like having a bunch of different labs all working on different aspects of the same problem.
And the best ideas, the most successful experiments can then be shared and implemented across the entire Polkadot ecosystem.
Right, it's a very collaborative approach to blockchain development, and it's one of the things that makes Polkadot so unique and potentially so powerful.
So for someone who's new to Polkadot and hearing about parachains for the first time, what's the key thing they should understand?
I think the key takeaway is that parachains are a way to scale and customize the Polkadot network. They allow for more specialized blockchains to connect to the main network, each with its own unique features and capabilities.
Okay, so it's like adding building blocks to a larger structure. Each block has its own purpose and function, but together they create something much bigger and more complex.
Exactly, and as more and more parachains are added to the Polkadot network, it becomes more versatile and powerful. It's like a constantly evolving ecosystem with new possibilities emerging all the time.
That's a pretty compelling vision, but let's face it, building this kind of complex, interconnected system is no easy feat. What are some of the technical challenges that Polkadot faces in making this parachain system work seamlessly?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is ensuring security and stability across the entire network. When you have all these different blockchains interacting with each other, you need to make sure that one compromised chain doesn't bring the whole system crashing down.
So it's like building a house with multiple interconnected rooms. You want to make sure that if one room catches fire, it doesn't spread to the rest of the house.
Exactly. And that's where Polkadot's consensus mechanism comes in. They use something called nominated proof of stake, or NPOS, which is designed to be both secure and scalable. It involves having a set of validators who are responsible for verifying transactions and maintaining the integrity of the network.
So it's a bit like having a distributed security force constantly patrolling the network, making sure everything is running smoothly and that no one is trying to break in.
That's a good analogy. And because these validators are incentivized to act honestly and protect the network, it creates a system of checks and balances that helps to prevent malicious activity.
Okay, so we've got this intricate system of parachains connected to the main Polkadot network, all secured by this sophisticated consensus mechanism. It sounds incredibly complex. How confident are you that they can actually pull it off?
Well, it's still early days. The parachain system is still being rolled out, and there are bound to be challenges and setbacks along the way. But the team behind Polkadot is incredibly talented and experienced. They've been working on this for years, and they've already made significant progress.
So it's a work in progress, but there's reason to be optimistic.
I think so. They've already launched a number of parachains, and the initial results have been promising. Of course, only time will tell if they can deliver on their ambitious vision, but it's definitely a project worth watching.
Okay, so let's say our listener is convinced by Polkadot's vision, and they're ready to take the plunge. What are some practical steps they can take to start investing in DOT?
Well, the first step is to do your research. Don't just blindly jump in because you heard it on a podcast. Read the Polkadot white paper, explore their website, check out some independent analysis and reviews.
Right, get a good understanding of the technology, the team, the vision, and the risks involved.
Exactly. Once you feel comfortable with your research, you need to find a reputable cryptocurrency exchange that lists DOT. There are many options out there, so it's important to compare fees, security features, and user experience before choosing one.
And remember, not all exchanges are created equal. Some are more trustworthy and user-friendly than others.
Absolutely. Once you've chosen an exchange, you'll need to create an account, verify your identity, and fund it with the currency you want to use to buy DOT. Most exchanges accept fiat currencies like US dollars or euros, but some may only allow you to buy DOT with other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
So it's important to check the exchange's funding options before you sign up.
Right. Once your account is funded, you can place an order to buy DOT. You can either set a limit order, which means you specify the price you're willing to pay, or a market order, which means you buy at the current market price.
And once you've bought your DOT, what are some things you can do with it?
Well, the most obvious option is to simply hold it as an investment, hoping that its price will appreciate over time. But you can also use DOT for staking, which we talked about earlier. This involves locking up your DOT to help secure the network and earn rewards in return.
So it's like earning interest on your crypto holdings.
Exactly. And the rewards can be quite substantial depending on the amount of DOT you stake and the current market conditions.
Okay, so holding, staking, those are the two main options. Are there any other ways to use DOT within the Polkadot ecosystem?
Well, you can also use DOT to participate in governance, as we discussed earlier. DOT holders get to vote on proposed changes to the platform, so you can have a direct say in shaping the future of Polkadot.
So it's not just about making money, it's about being part of a community and contributing to the development of a technology you believe in.
Exactly, and that's something that a lot of people find appealing about crypto in general. It's not just a financial investment, it's an ideological one.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about Polkadot's ambitious vision, the challenges they face, the potential rewards for investors, and some practical steps for getting started. But there's one last thing I want to touch on before we wrap up, and that's the broader impact of Polkadot's work.
Right. If Polkadot succeeds in building this multi-chain future, it could have a profound impact on the way we use and interact with technology.
It's not just about making crypto transactions faster or cheaper. It's about creating a more interconnected and decentralized internet.
Exactly, and that has implications for everything from finance and commerce to social media and entertainment.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a moment and paint a picture of what this future might look like. Let's say Polkadot achieves its goals and this multi-chain vision becomes a reality. What are some of the potential benefits that we might see?
Well, one of the most significant benefits would be increased innovation when different blockchains can seamlessly communicate and share data. It creates a much more fertile ground for new ideas and applications. Developers can leverage the strengths of multiple blockchains without being limited by the constraints of any single one.
So it's like breaking down the walls between different technological ecosystems, allowing for greater collaboration and cross-pollination of ideas.
Exactly, and that could lead to the development of entirely new types of applications and services that we can't even imagine today.
So it's not just about incremental improvements, it's about unlocking a whole new realm of possibilities.
Right, and those possibilities could extend far beyond the world of crypto. Imagine a world where you can control your own data and identity, where you're not beholden to the whims of giant corporations.
A world where power is more evenly distributed, where individuals have more control over their digital lives.
Exactly, and that's the kind of future that Polkadot is working to build.
Okay, so let's say our listener is sold on this vision and they're eager to get involved, but they're also aware of the risks and the fact that Polkadot is just one player in a crowded and competitive field. What are some other projects they might want to explore that are working towards similar goals?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Cosmos and Avalanche are two prominent projects that are also building multi-chain ecosystems. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses, so it's worth doing some research to see which one aligns best with your investment philosophy and risk tolerance.
So it's not about picking a winner, it's about diversifying your portfolio and exploring different approaches to solving the same problem.
Exactly, and there are many other projects out there that are worth exploring as well. The blockchain space is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay curious and keep learning.
So even if Polkadot doesn't end up being the dominant player in this multi-chain future, the work they're doing is pushing the entire industry forward and inspiring others to innovate and build.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this such an exciting time to be involved in crypto. We're witnessing the birth of a new technological paradigm, and the possibilities are truly limitless.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into Polkadot, I think that's the most important takeaway for our listeners. This is a technology with the potential to reshape the world. And whether or not Polkadot is the one to lead the charge, the journey itself is going to be fascinating to watch.
Well said, and I, for one, am excited to see what the future holds.
Me too. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of Polkadot. We hope you found it informative and engaging.
And we encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating and ever-evolving world of blockchain technology.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech, the vision, the competition, even some of the drama surrounding Polkadot. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, and that's that whole idea of risk. Investing in crypto is inherently risky, but especially in a project like Polkadot that's trying to achieve something so ambitious.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for anyone considering investing in DOT to understand those risks and to make sure they're comfortable with the level of volatility that comes with this asset class.
So let's break down some of those risks for our listeners. What are some of the things that could go wrong for Polkadot that could potentially impact the price of DOT?
Well, one of the biggest risks is simply execution risk. Can Polkadot actually deliver on its ambitious roadmap? Can they build a multi-chain ecosystem that's secure, scalable, and user-friendly? There's no guarantee of success, and if they stumble along the way, it could really erode investor confidence and send the price of DOT tumbling.
So it's a bet on the team's ability to execute their vision, and as we've seen, in the tech world, not all brilliant ideas actually translate into successful products.
Right, and then there's the competitive landscape, as we discussed earlier. Polkadot isn't the only player in this multi-chain game. Cosmos, Avalanche, other projects are also vying for dominance, and if they gain traction, it could eat into Polkadot's market share and impact the price of DOT.
So it's a race to the top, and there's no guarantee that Polkadot will be the one to cross the finish line first.
Exactly, and let's not forget the ever-present regulatory risk. Governments around the world are still grappling with how to regulate crypto, and if they impose harsh regulations or outright bans, it could have a devastating impact on the entire industry, including Polkadot.
It's like a sword hanging over the head of the entire crypto space. You never know when those regulations might come crashing down.
Right, exactly. And then there are the more general risks associated with crypto, such as market volatility, security vulnerabilities, scams. Crypto is still a relatively young and unregulated market, and it's important for investors to be aware of these risks and to take steps to protect themselves.
Do your research, choose a reputable exchange, store your crypto securely, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Couldn't agree more. And one final thought to leave our listeners with is the importance of staying informed. The crypto world is constantly evolving, so it's crucial to keep up with the latest news developments and trends.
Read industry publications, follow thought leaders on social media, and don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge assumptions.
Exactly. The more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to make sound investment decisions and navigate this exciting but often turbulent world of crypto.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of Polkadot. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical details of their multi-chain vision to the potential risks and rewards for investors.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
And we encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating world of blockchain technology and to stay curious about the possibilities that lie ahead.
Until next time, happy diving.